Welcome to the Las Vegas IT podcast. And today I have the pleasure to be speaking to Christian Marie, but she does go by Elle, and she is a senior IT project manager. Today we're just going to learn more about exactly what is it that you do. And just like looking at your career, it seems very, very impressive from the things that you've done, including your time as a senior IT project manager at MGM Resorts. Can you just tell us a little bit about how you got started in IT and what led you into leadership roles?
Yeah, so I've always been interested in technology ever since I was a little girl. Started on a Commodore 64, so that'll tell you how old I am. My parents are in telecommunications. Both of them are Army. So they've kind of like introduced me to the world of technology. And from there, it just blossomed. I am prior military. There, I worked at the Pentagon, but not doing technology stuff. And my big dip into it was working for the State Department for the Foreign Service. And I managed a particular messaging system for the embassies and consulates there. And it was more like logistics and IT. And it was this beautiful marriage of all the things that I was interested in, not to mention dealing with like being 20 years old and dealing with $685 million budgets, which my allowance was never that much. So it was kind of cool. And from there, I just skyrocketed. And it's crazy because I know what the consensus is about women in tech and stuff like that. But some of my biggest supporters, or most of my biggest supporters, have always been men. And they just saw potential in me and they would elevate me and push me and help me in the areas that I was not good at, which was usually communicating. But I always had a love for technology. So from the working at the State Department to I worked for Department of Health and Human Services, doing trainings, the World Bank, doing big global rollouts of like IT systems and user upgrades. And then that led me to working for Baltimore County for 8 years at the local county level of government. And then I ended up at MGM because I was on this beautiful app called Clubhouse during the pandemic. And in this room, I was talking to somebody. We were always having project management discussions, like methodology and theoretical conversations. And he was like, could you come work for me for MGM? And I was hesitant because I've only done government. I never worked for private sector ever. It was only government or non-GMO, non-government entity, which was the World Bank. And from there, I was like, I want to get a different change. My son is about to graduate high school. I've never worked in the private industry, so this is my way to get out of the government. So I ended up working at MGM for about 2.5 years up until earlier this year. And then I ended up working for the Venetian for a very brief moment. And now I'm a free agent. So I'm just upskilling and stuff right now because, like I said, I love technology and learning different in and outs. My thing right now is smart city and IoT.
That's very, very interesting. So thank you for sharing that with me, and especially kind of what you shared with us. Being a woman in IT, it's not a lot of what you see. So having men that are actually willing to help you, like that is amazing. And just hearing your story of how you got started. So thank you for sharing that with us, Elle. At MGM, could you share with us some of the most important projects you worked in and how did they improve the company's technology?
So one of their big initiatives, not just projects, was trying to consolidate their IT backbone, which is it's pretty much backbone infrastructure. So that way they can better manage or be able to counter if there are security incidents that they have to, mitigate. So having all of their properties on one backbone would allow corporate IT, like the nucleus, the parent IT, be able to manage those incidences as well as work with all the different properties because, MGM is one of the larger casino hotel resorts. So they have their Las Vegas strip and then they have places all over the US, not to mention outside the US. So this would help them be able to mitigate issues. So that was like one of the bigger initiatives that we were working on. We got partly through it, but that's what the biggest thing was trying to secure against other cyber events and things like that.
Got it. I've heard, and I'm sure that was a huge project just from the things that I've heard in the past, in the last recent years. And then, you worked at several places like Baltimore Country and Technica Corporation. How
Yeah,
has
for sure.
IT project management changed over the years, and what has stayed the same?
I think more attention to the detail from beginning to end. During my time at Department of Health and Human Services, most people don't know there was a human capital initiative where the federal government was trying to see like what is happening to our projects when it comes to monitoring and things like that because they were losing all this money. And I think now there's a closer eye to budgets and they want to have more. You know, you just can't be a regular project manager. I mean, you can in some places, because the beautiful thing about being a PM or a project manager or program manager is that you could be in any type of industry. And as long as they have SOPs and things like that, you should be able to pick it up and go based upon, if you can do the basic project management stuff. But nowadays they need more flavor to their PMs, or you have to have a little bit more color where people like technical PMs like me come in at like my forte is mostly infrastructure and enterprise system doing like global rollouts. You don't have to be an SME in it, a subject matter expert, but you still need to know the puzzle pieces and put them together so that way you can have a successful project. So I think that's like the biggest thing is that they want you to have a bit more skill. Like we don't need you to do the work because we have resources to do it, but you need to be familiar enough to know what's missing in the project. And that's what they're kind of moving towards now. It's like they need somebody that's not just sitting on the bench or just barking orders. They need somebody that's going to know like, okay, they need to be able to see down the road, like, okay, I need this piece. I need this piece. I need to get these resources and I need them to do this. So more of that is happening now and it's kind of growing. I'm happy to see the change in that. And then the other thing too is for the requirement of certifications. I'm not going to go into that whole theology. I'm not really a big supporter of certain certifications, but there's some that you do need in order to be a successful PM. But yeah, most of the stuff's just stayed the same. I mean, there's not much has changed as far as like what you do. It's just how you go about and do it.
Got it. Understood. So thank you. And as a product owner for Atlas and Suite and Splunk, what
Mhm.
challenges did you face and how did these tools help your teams build work better?
Yeah, so Atlassian is like a platform that helps you manage projects as well as work is for development. It's very good for developers. So you're working with a team of engineers, and if you ever work with them, all of them have wonderful ideas, and sometimes they want to implement them, but they can't, or they can't right now. So Atlassian is this environment that's created for not just the project managers, product owners, but as well as for the developers to be able to manage the flow of work. And then there's also some other AI or RPA robotic process pieces that you can add in to help automate a lot of things that you would work with. That was a cool project. And Splunk is a network monitoring project, a network monitoring tool that allows you to be able to be more attentive to things that are happening in your infrastructure environment, whether it's in your syslogs, it reviews your syslogs for different stuff. It could be being able to monitor your applications, things like that. So it helps organizations be a bit more attentive. And that's what they were trying to do at the government organization I was with. They were trying to be a bit more attentive to their environment, considering the heightened risk all the different cyber events that are happening and all the other gaps in upgrades and firmware updates. It helps them keep track of that and respond to it.
Got it. And
Mhm.
that totally makes sense. So thank you for sharing. And these platforms are key for many companies today. How do you
Mhm.
help these businesses run smoothly and stay secure?
Well, it's a team effort. It's not necessarily just me. It's all the teams. Like you're literally just somebody that is helping guide the ship, not necessarily telling others what to do with it. You bring everybody together and we actually have discussions about what's going to work and what's not going to work. And you as the PM, based upon your knowledge and experience, you actually help facilitate those conversations. As an IT PM, based upon your background and your knowledge of whatever sector of IT that you're in, you can actually, it'll help you better form like questions and also add more color to the conversation. Like you're able to do more of the why questioning. I don't know if you heard of the 6 whys, but you can ask why to get your answer. So you can, help facilitate those conversations, not necessarily you making the choices yourself. You bring the teams together to make those sound decisions. And then you go get the approval from your stakeholders, which is usually your higher ups, because they're the ones that are ultimately responsible for the project and the monies that go with it. And they have to be responsible for that.
Got it. Which totally makes sense. So just the importance of your team and the
Hmm.
decisions that you make together. Is that kind of what I'm
Yeah.
hearing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Got it.
Yeah.
uh,
You can't make decisions in a vacuum. Some places do, but you shouldn't.
right. Oh, yes, it's very,
Hmm.
very important. So thank you for sharing that with me or us. And
Hmm.
so when it comes to, you've led IT teams at places like the World Bank and Baltimore County. How did your
Hmm.
leadership style grow over time and what worked best when managing these teams?
I think surprisingly, again, my route to project management and the types of teams I managed was unconventional. So I grew up in a military household, very strict, very, very strict, not to mention my family being I'm first generation American, parents
Mm,
being from the islands. And so I grew up in a strict household. But so when I run my projects, my dad used to always never like if there's something for me to do, there would never be a question mark at the end of it. And I kind of run my teams like that sometimes. Like, did you do this? How about this? And I kind of give directions like that because your team is full of different personalities. And yes, you should cater to some of those personalities, but when it's time to get the work done, you need to get it done. I'm not somebody that is, quick to seek blame to others and things like that. And I feel like my teams are always happy about that. They know that I'm a champion for theirs. They're in my conversation. I'm very transparent. That's a very big thing, is being transparent and your team being able to trust you. That's like a huge thing because that's the only way you're going to get work done. And that's not the only way that they're going to want to work with you or for you in getting things done, is when they have that, they really feel like they're part of the team. And I hate to say it's almost like parenting. And, a lot of times they want to do good because they feel like they're part of it and they feel like they're for you. So they don't want you to look bad. So they do their best to get stuff done. And I've always had teams where it was mostly men, which I know some women talk about like how it's difficult, but for me, it's never been that difficult. I'm very straightforward. I always have curiosity when it comes to technical things. I ask questions. I'm not bashful about it. And I think I always had like a kind of strong personality, which got developed over time because of my male mentors and them bringing that stuff out of me. So a lot of my teams, though they are men, they actually enjoy that. They like that I am very candid, I'm straightforward, I'm transparent. I am at least knowledgeable in my areas, and they know I'm there to help them. I'm not there to just like ask you what this data is and that's it. I go out my way to help my team. And if there's something that they can't do, they know that they can come to me and just tell me honestly, like, I can't do this. I'm like, okay, you can't do it. Can you tell me why? Is there a solution? All right, I'll go do that. But so that's really it. It's about building trust and being a champion for your team.
Got it. And yes, that's very, very, very important.
Hmm.
And I can see where that could be very, very beneficial. So thank you for
Hmm.
sharing, Elle. And then what do you think are the most important skills for leading IT teams through big projects, especially in large organizations like MGM Resorts or the
Hmm.
World Bank?
Really bringing all the teams together. Like a project manager's bread and butter is communicate, 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 identifying your different audiences. Not every audience has the need to know everything, and you need to understand that. Another thing too is like not everybody needs to be in a meeting. Like you don't need to have everybody and their great grandmother in a meeting, and not doing death by meetings. There should always be a clear outcome of what you're trying to do in that meeting. Having meetings for the sake of meetings just to look like you're working, I've never been a big fan of. That's one of the first things I tell my teams when I get on board to an organization. I go around to all the different teams I become familiar with them, the names, what they're working on, and I really make sure that they know that they're going to be heard. So having that personal engagement with your resources is important. I know some PMs just see IT as just tools. These people are just tools to get something done, but there's so much more than that. You are a servant leader. You are there to remove obstacles for them. And that is very important for an engineer or developer or whatever type of team that you're on. So doing stuff like that. And the other stuff, the small bean stuff, being technically, inclined, those are just things that just add on to the cake. They're just like additional toppings, but your foundation is communication, effective communication, and getting all that stuff done. Because if you're not communicating across the teams and letting people know, then your project's going to fail.
Got it. And because you don't just see these people as being a tool, I'm sure you get more out of them as well.
Yes, I get more out of them. Yeah, yeah. I will say one of my favorite teams was working at the World Bank. I love doing diverse projects. I love diversity, meaning diversity of thought, not just diversity, like physical diversity of how you look. I was working with people from all over the world, and I learned from all of them as well. So having those different engagements, I think helped me become a better PM, working with all these different personalities, all these different cultural differences, and being able to accommodate those cultural differences within reason. Is what needs to happen. And not to mention having those candid conversations. If there's any disagreement or any derision, being able to talk it through, let them explain their thought process with something, and then also counter it with yours. And, having these conversations to be heard and not just to kind of like enforce what you want to happen.
Got it, which makes sense. So thanks for sharing that with us.
Yeah.
And then looking ahead, what do you think are the top trends in IT project management?
Again, PMs needing to be so much more than just getting a PMI certification. I will tell people right now, I've been a PM for 20 years. I took a project management class because it was required for this new culture. You do not need a PMP it's just a cert to say that you test well. Some of the best PMs do not have that certification. The certification I have is like Lean Six Sigma, which is big. That's more of a scientific one if you're doing like data projects or some more clinical, which is helpful. I have my Scrum and my product owner and it's great for if you're doing development projects, especially if you're in like DevOps and things that's development operations. So you're developing something to move into operations, things like that. But like having so much more than that. Like I said, other certifications. Like right now I'm getting my Google Analytics, my Google Data Analytics, because things are going to be moving to the cloud soon. I'm already familiar with SQL, so I know how to do like SQL coding. The other thing is I will be getting my cloud engineering one because I already have like my network certification as a PM, and I have I have AWS and things like that. So you have to be so much more than just project management. And it will behoove all PMs to start upskilling. Like we are in a world where AI, with designed right, can replace you and replace you in the sense that some of the work that you do, they don't need you to do that. They can actually run stuff. There's ChatGPT, there's Copilot. You can ask it to do different things, and it'll give them that output. You can have it do a project schedule based upon like these are the tasks, this is the duration of it. Create me a project schedule and stuff. So PMs need to up the ante and get more familiar with the technologies that are coming, or else people are going to get steamrolled. I tell people all the time, you're not going to get necessarily replaced by AI, but you will get replaced by somebody that's using it effectively. So you need to upskill. Yeah, upskill.
Got it. And like when you say upskill, like what are some ways that people can do that?
Google and Amazon have great training platforms. I think the training on Amazon is free. and you just pay like $100 or so much. It's been a while since I got on there to just take the test. Google $29 subscription a month to take all their to take whatever courses that you want. Another $2.99 to take, I think, the course and whatever test you want because they give you like credit to the test. So the information is out there. You don't necessarily have to go into a university environment to take these classes. You can if you want to. I'm not like, saying anything about these institutions, but there's ways that you can get this upskilling. LinkedIn has training as well. I think it's part of their premium package. You can do some training. They have LinkedIn certification. I haven't used it yet, but I've heard people have been using it. I know Google and Amazon, those are kind of like recognized by other employers. So, you can easily do it, but the stuff is out there. You just got to go and do it. Don't get PMs do not get complacent. You're going to have to they're going to be asking for different PMs. And if you go look at the job boards now, they're asking for IT or technical project managers. That's what they're asking for. They want you to be familiar with these enterprise systems. They want you to know about SaaS, software as a service, or IaaS, infrastructure as a service. And that's stuff that's in the cloud. You don't have to do the work, but they want you to be familiar with it. So go get those certifications. And also you can do them at home. You don't have to go to a testing facility to do this stuff. Stuff is open book. It's right online. It's just up to you to do it.
Yeah, no, totally makes sense. And there's so much, if online has been a blessing for me as well.
Yeah.
And so earlier you did mention that you are a free agent. So I guess like, what are you currently looking for? And then how do you see your skills helping you in the next thing that you get into?
So yes, I'm a free agent as of like 2-3 weeks ago. I like remote work roles or either hybrid because I am somebody that likes to travel and be in different places. So if there's a role where it requires me to travel, because I'm one of those people that I love to be in different environments. I love meeting different people. And because I feel I kind of get energy off of learning that stuff. I love diverse projects, even difficult ones. I worked on one of my coolest projects was doing video management systems for Baltimore County. And that's with the police and fire, like bringing in camera feeds. I put almost 2,000 cameras in all the schools and card readers and stuff for the safety and things like that. So I love really cool projects and I love to learn on my projects. When there's like diversity of technology inside of an environment, I feel like those are the best environments I thrive in. Because I'm one of those constant learners. I'm always reading something. I'm always watching a video to upskill, to learn more because all you're doing is adding more stuff to your arsenal as a PM that'll help you, not just help you, but it will help your client or your employer, meet their business strategic goals for whatever year or the next 10 years. So that's what I'm truly looking for. As far as industry, because I'm an IT PM, I can kind of thrive in any industry. I've done a bit of construction project management in Baltimore County, and I lean on that one because most of the government, you are, I like to say, a full stack PM. You don't get to decide like, oh, I only do development projects or I only do this type. No, you do everything. Whether it's doing construction stuff and you're working with the construction team to build IT closets and to run fiber and different cabling, and you're negotiating with them about price. You're telling them how you want stuff done, even down to like the physical stuff with like the cameras. You're working with security teams to identify where you want the cameras and blockages everywhere. So you become like almost like an expert or a jack of all trades when you're doing all these different types of projects and you're not sticking or pigeonholing yourself to this one thing. Like I can do stuff from development to software implementation to upgrades to physical and the physical as well as the non-physical systems. So it's rare that you come across PMs like that, but that's the type that I am. And I am grateful for the government for not giving me the option of choosing what type of stuff to do. They just give it to you. So I'm open to being in any environment as far as industry is concerned. I don't have one that I'm picking right now because there's only but so much you can choose from here in Vegas. I was living on the East Coast for many years of my life. And there's more diversity of industry you can go to. Here, it's heavy casino, resort, hospitality driven. So it kind of is what it is. But I would like to kind of get back to my roots and work with like heavy technical organizations. I don't mind going back to government and stuff, but I would like to have a remote role or hybrid role, and I would like to travel again. I've mostly been applying for roles that may require 75% travel, 50% travel and stuff. So that way I can work on stuff. I can come back home and things like that. Sorry for the beeping. People are messaging me. I should turn on Do Not Disturb. My apologies. But yeah, but
No,
that's where I am. Like literally, like I most definitely, can't say that I can't do something. I can. I might have something preferred as far as an industry, but I literally, and it's going to sound cocky, but I literally can work anywhere. And I pride myself on that. I can work in anywhere. I can work in any type of environment, whether it's, a male driven, woman driven, whatever. I can thrive in any type of environment. I will say it's very true as far as leadership is concerned. Like people do leave because of leadership. So one of the important things to me in an environment is having leadership where they're always continually improving. Kaizen is, I'm a huge fan of Kaizen, continual improvement. And it has to be an organization that's driven by technology, but in a human centric way, meaning that they do not put technology in there just for the sake of putting it in there because it's the trend. It's because it's centered around improving either the user's task in their day to day, so it can it can enhance their workflow, or it is to enhance the business, but never to hinder somebody. So, that's what I want. I would love to be in an organization that really listens to their employees' recommendations and stuff and justifications and getting stuff done. So yeah,
got it.
that's what I'm looking for. That's my ideal environment.
Got it. Hopefully you'll get it. I know you will.
Yes, pray for
uh,
me. Pray for me.
I will pray for you, and maybe someone who's listening will know exactly where you should go. Can you share a success story when your leadership directly helped solve a major problem or improved a system?
I will do a more recent one because I love these two gentlemen. They're like, again, some of my male mentors. So Jim Jones, who used to run the network infrastructure over at MGM, and my other favorite is Greg Williams, who's the VP. He ran mostly the operations side, data center, data storage. He made sure like the day to day stayed improving. So that's operations. Like I was telling you, DevOps almost. And then was the one that actually, he also implemented some of more new technologies for improvement and stuff, but mostly networks centered. And one of the projects that I had with them where they both kind of collided was let me see, it was a network infrastructure upgrade for all the different properties, including the Las Vegas Strip, which I think they're almost done now. But working with both of those gentlemen and upgrading like the switches and stuff, and also working with the teams doing the cross collaboration with training with the operations to let them know what we're working on, and then being able to see like in real time that the properties have improved communications, improved networking. This not only helped us on the back end, which is I've learned, I'm still learning some of the game industry tech terminology, but back of house, working with them in back of house to improve like functionality and systems and communicating there, but also seeing like how on the front end of it all, how customers are able to have better internet service or better in-room technology. That was one of my projects with Jim Jones, is upgrading the in-room technology, which was like the switches and stuff. And the switches are connected to the panic alarms and to the TVs and to everything that's within it. So that was like a really cool project. One of my passions is seeing my projects actually have instant impact. I will say when I worked on the federal government side, you really don't see the instant impact of your projects day to day. You probably see the impact like 5 years later, 7 years later after it's done. But when you work at the local, state, like county level, or you're working directly with a company like MGM, or even the World Bank, you see like what you did has, how it has improved. And sometimes you get instant feedback, whether positive or negative. And so that's one of the things I like. And working with Jim Jones and Greg Williams on those particular projects, whether it's the network infrastructure, data migrations, like the consolidation of casino, like when they do an acquisition. And you necessarily don't see that particular one on the customer side, but I get to see how I improve the users or the employees like the way they work, and they give you instant feedback. I mean, instant feedback. Whether they they didn't like it, they didn't like it. But yeah, that was my successful ones. My network infrastructure one, that was an upgrade, and my data migration, which they both kind of the worlds collide. So that was kind of cool.
Got it. And I'm sure, and I'm sure with that, with getting instant feedback, I'm sure it caused you guys to solve those possible issues that you had faster.
hmm Yes, they
Yeah.
do. If you're an attentive, that's where I go back to communicate. If you're an attentive PM and you're in constant engagement with your customers, which are the employees, and your customer can also be your resources on your project, and you hear about their issues or issues that they've come across, getting that instant feedback and resolving it, bringing the parties together to resolve it is like, that is your bread and butter. That's the only way your projects will be effective and be or successful towards the end of it. So that's what I like.
Got it.
hmm
I'm sure. That's pretty awesome. And
Yeah.
then technology is always evolving. How do you
Mhm.
stay updated with the latest IT trends, ensure that your teams are prepared for new changes?
I watch videos. I have lots of friends in various industries. I'm in some technology groups that we talk. I follow the trends. There's an app that I use called TLDR, Too Long Didn't Read. So it's all IT centered, and you can choose what you want to learn about, and they send you like 1 minute snippets of whatever the latest trends is, and you can choose to read more, but it just highlights like this is a new trend, and it'll highlight it, and you can go and read more. So TLDR is like such a great help. I follow Daily Science. That more does like a deep dive in some of the technologies that are out there. It's not just tech. It's also, physical tech, like technology, but there's like science, like medical science that's on there. You can learn about things that they're doing in space. And like I said, all those worlds kind of collide because we kind of have to work hand in hand. So I love the Daily Science website. So that's what I do. And just listening to others, you can monitor what's going on out there, and as far as like job trends to see like what technology is out there. So if you are paying attention, if you're attentive to to following those trends, where the direction is going. Like, like I said with upskilling, like I see like there's a lot of jobs out there that's asking for people to know data or to know cloud. They're asking, I had a job one that says, PM need to know SQL. They need to know how to do testing. And, so if you're reading that stuff in like the job postings, then that's what you should be getting the additional training on.
Got
Yeah.
it. And with you receiving those constant notifications, how do
Mhm.
you not get overwhelmed?
Oh, you get overwhelmed. There's no way down around it. TLDR does help me. Like I said, too long didn't read of giving those snippets. Okay, of course, sometimes you need to take a step back and breathe from all of it. But I can't even say that there's a way to like get around it. Anybody's easily overwhelmed. There's no way around it. It's all you can do is take a step back, put your phone or your notification on do not disturb, and go to sleep. That's all you can
No,
do.
no, I totally understand. And I'm someone that also, always learning as well. So I
Mhm.
totally understand that. And, with your experience across different industries, how do you adapt your project management approach to fit the unique needs of each organization?
First thing I do is you should ask them what their business strategy is. Like, what is their focus? What is important to the organization right now? Is it improving their bottom line? Because let's be honest, companies are about money and making money. Is their focus their employees, improving them? Because if you have happy employees who feel like you're making their lives easier, that actually improves your bottom line. So it has the effect of it affects your financials. Is it, doing user right? So it's really asking the client or who your employer is, like what's important to them right then and there. And then also too, I go around and I talk to the different teams, whether it's the network, the server, there's firewall. I talk to the different teams and I ask them, like how can I make your life easier? What issues do you see day to day that you feel as though need to be resolved that I can help you with? And they're very candid about it. They'll say like, There's not enough communications. I will say with engineers, one thing that they, that's harmful to them getting work done and also demotivates them is having too many places to put the same information. So helping them consolidate that stuff so they're not spending their time writing tickets or doing comments on different stuff all the time on in different places is helping them to consolidate that stuff. So really getting familiar with what your team's needs are in the beginning is really, really helpful.
Got it. And
Mhm.
as a small business ourselves,
Mhm.
how would you, or I guess, what are your tips to help business
Mhm.
to, streamline those so that so the employees aren't putting it in multiple locations? Because I do feel like that's a problem with a
Really,
lot of small businesses.
yeah, really asking your employees, like, how do you operate? What works best for you? A lot of, if you have Microsoft, a lot of say, I rather communicate through Teams. Let's communicate inside Teams. I think besides all the issues people say with Microsoft, but I think Teams has like really matured over the past few years with how it's created an environment where you can actually work, communicate, and keep track of stuff all in one place. So then, and because it connects to all the other different systems that they have, or apps they have like Outlook, Word, any of that stuff, it's all connected there. They have a new thing called Loop with meeting minutes. You can assign work tasks and stuff like that. That's just one example, but creating an environment where your team doesn't feel overwhelmed, where they're looking in 1,000 different places, it seems small, but that one step of trying to make your workers or your engineers or your employees life easier will, I can't even tell you how much doing that one little thing helps them exponentially. And it actually, helps them with their day-to-day work so they can focus on what's really important. Um, Having moments where you're talking to your teams, like bringing them all together and having a retrospective where it's like, okay, this is where we are this month. We want to hear your feedback and like really listening to, I think that's what businesses need to do. They really need to start listening to their people because, despite all the technology out there, you still need a human to do the work and stuff. And if your workforce is having problems and stuff, you want to hear about it, early on so you can resolve it and not hear about it when they're like leaving. They've already taken a job somewhere else. And then you get to see on Glassdoor the problems. And, because it's like it creates this type of, negative environment. So really having those retrospectives, whether it's once a month, it builds morale. It makes them feel like they're heard. And it just lets them know that you are there to care for you. Because I think we've lost that in a lot of the way the work culture is now. Because people stay at places for like no more than 2 years, not even a year now, especially in the tech world. And we're in a place where human capital is just as important as anything else. People want to retain knowledge. There's countries facing right now like a shortage of knowledge workers because they go to other places where they're going to be paid more, because the cost of living is high. And that's another thing as a business, you really need to, I know not every place can do it, but you need to pay people what they're worth. Like if you're going to be expecting them to do like, to really carry like a lot of work, you should pay them accordingly so they'll want to stay. They'll feel as though that they're being compensated for what they do. And, because it makes them feel valued. You're paying somebody like $20 an hour to run like this multi-million-dollar project and you're overworking them, but they're only making the cost benefit analysis just isn't there. So they're going to up and leave and go somewhere else. And and then you've lost that knowledge, which is
Got it.
important.
No,
Yeah.
totally understood.
Hmm.
So thank you for sharing that with Il. That was
Yeah.
very useful. And then, you did talk about the certifications, you did talk about a lot of
Hmm.
different things,
Hmm.
but what advice would you give to someone that's just starting out in IT who wants to manage big projects like the ones that you have worked on?
I said I had such an unconventional sort of like crash course into all of this. So it's hard for me to say like where you should enter at. I would say you should probably, whether you want to be on the project side, which is more the project management side, which is more administration. If you want to be more on the technical side, I feel as though that you really need to sit down and get a taste for all the different spaces and find out what your passion is, you know? it could lie on both sides. I think it's great. I know schools are now doing more like cross job, like allowing kids to come and, shadow for a day. I did that at Baltimore County where I think I forgot what they're called. I think AGI or something. The student government, SGLA. They were coming and stuff. They were mostly supposed to be around the government, like the legal entity, but they actually came to IT. And I would take the kids around to all the different areas so they get a taste of it. And I would explain to them the different projects we did, how important it was, and it actually gives them a flavor of what they can do within IT. We're not just there pushing buttons, plugging stuff in. We're actually problem solving. We're keeping stuff running, really putting that one to one. And I think adults should go through that too. Like they really should think about like, is this something I want to do? Because if you are in tech, you have to remember you are constantly learning, like constantly. You cannot just like learn one thing and then don't learn anything else. This is not that type of industry. You have to constantly be upskilling or else you will be replaced by somebody else that has the skills. So there's that too. That's the biggest thing I can tell somebody when entering the field. You have to have a passion for it. You have to want to learn, and you need to like read about all the different areas you can be in before making a decision. Because maybe this isn't for you. Maybe not learning all the time isn't for you, or managing people or communicating all the time. Problem solving may not be your thing, and stuff like that. So, making a sound decision.
Got it. Understood. Mm-hmm. And you've been in leadership positions for many years. How do you mentor or support the growth of junior IT professionals within your teams?
I necessarily don't mentor a lot of them. I more do like within my teams, I do like a lot of inspiring, encouraging more than anything, because depending on what they're trying to do, like I want them to I want them to want to get the stuff done. So again, that's really having those communications, removing the roadblocks for them. I have done mentorship, not necessarily like in my role. I have a young lady or a couple of young ladies that I've mentored. One is actually in South Korea now going to grad school for communications. And I have another one she went to school at Korea University, which is one of their top schools, came back, graduated from South Carolina. Now she's going to get her grad degree. And I was, mentoring her, talking about technology and things like that. And it's more like putting the ideas in front of people and telling them what the potential is and what the impact is. And then them making the decisions, not making the decisions for them, but I more so try to be the type of person that I needed when I was their age at that time. That's most of the time where I get to really inspire and mentor. But within my work teams, just being like a servant leader, that whole concept of servant leader, removing roadblocks and stuff, I really serve more of somebody to inspire versus mentor, because they're already at a certain point in their careers with the teams I work with. There's not any mentoring I can do. A lot of times they're not looking to be in like leadership positions. They're there to get the work done. And all I can do is encourage, inspire, and just make their lives easier. Mm-hmm.
Got it. That makes sense. And you shared a lot with us. So thank you. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with us before we go?
Yeah, I would like to say, like, look, everybody has their own journey in life, and your journey is the experiences that you need to make you the person that you need to be. So don't just listen to the rhetoric from different podcasts and blog posts and stuff. You can have, as a woman of color, you can have a really great career in technology as long as you're able to pivot. I've never thought about myself, or when I go into a room and most of the time it is just men. And a lot of times there's no men of color. There's just me. I don't think about that I'm a woman or a woman of color. I am there to bring my knowledge and my skills to the table, because at the end of the day, that's what a lot of people respect more, that you come to the table, you come there to problem solve and to come with the solutions. That's what they're paying you for. And, that's really all I can say. Like I said, I had a very unconventional career, and I'm so happy for it because, I wouldn't be getting the jobs or being in the spaces that I have been in, if I haven't had those male mentors, whether they were black, white, Asian, whatever. So don't focus on like what that person looks like. Focus about how they can excel you. And if you feel like you're in a room where you're the smartest person, my dad used to say this all the time. If you're in a room and you're the smartest person, you need a new room because you're supposed to be, you need to grow. You need to become so much more. And the environment we live in, you cannot settle anymore. You cannot just settle for this. Constantly be learning, put yourself in uncomfortable positions because that's when you grow the most is when you're uncomfortable. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. That is my bread and butter. I tell everybody that. Get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Got it. And I actually
Mm-hmm.
agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always on that as well. So that's so awesome just to hear that from you. And if
Mm-hmm.
someone's looking to reach out to you or for whatever reason they're looking to connect with you, how can someone do that?
My email address, I do have my own startup that I've been working on for the past couple of years, but it just hasn't come to fruition because I was getting this kid in college and moving over here and stuff like that. But you can use C as in cat Nickens at si-space.com, or you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. If there's any young women or even young men out there that want to talk about being in IT, hear more about trends and stuff like that, I'm always open to helping. Like literally the I want the world to be a world that I would like to live in, and that is having better educated, better informed people. So, better creation for the future and all that other jazz. So, yeah, like please have them reach out to me. You have my LinkedIn and my information. Please share it, whether it's a company, a startup, or even somebody that wants mentorship. I am here.
Awesome. And we will share that within our podcast. And you did mention your startup. I mean, did you want to share that with us as well before we go?
Oh, yeah, yeah. I'm sorry. I'm always bashful, despite like sounding like I've had this illustrious career where I was at the forefront. I'm a very shy and introverted person. So my startup is focused around smart city and IoT, but it's not necessarily just the technology. It's about helping cities, organizations, or even countries create a program where you're running a sound and cost efficient smart city or IoT program. It's more like to help them on their journey. So they're not spending, these astronomical amounts of money on smart city because maybe the technology you're using is not right for your environment. Something that is used in New York may not necessarily be something that you use in Ecuador or in different places. So I want to help countries, organizations, and cities, get on that digital transformation journey in a sound way. And then the other part of that is the B2B. I'm all about collaboration and innovation. So I want to bring businesses together, especially if they're creating different projects. And if there's somebody else that's working on the same technology, why not work on it together? We don't exist in the vacuum and nothing is new under the sun. So why not work with other people, do that cross collaboration so we can, build better.
Got it. No, that makes sense. Also, thank you for sharing that with us. And then
Mm-hmm.
one more question, since you did bring up, like, how are you helping other countries do that? Just before we go.
Oh, so I attend CES every year and you end up just talking to people and I've talked to different people, representative of different countries. And we just we had like this little conversation about like, what are the gaps in smart city, especially if you're going to, I call them First Nations, or I hate the word third world. I call them first world because some of them are the oldest places. But I talked to them about some of the gaps that they're having and how to mitigate those gaps. And whether it's whether it's corruption in the funding, how they can mitigate that, whether it's how to engage. Mostly a lot of that stuff is engagement because there's distrust of the government, distrust of third parties coming into countries to implement what they think that they need. I talk to them about, building that trust, having conversations with your citizens is so, so important because ultimately you're building technology for sustainability and you need adoption. A lot of places don't worry about the adoption and whatnot. And so if you don't have adoption of your technology, it's going to be a failed experiment and you just wasted this money because nobody's adopted it. So I talk to them about what they can do about adoption, how they can build trust, and also recommending them in certain areas, technologies and stuff. So I put them in contact with people that I know, friends of mine that are running businesses with technology that might be of use to them. So right now it's like a lot of free information I've been giving, but my friends was like, you really need to put a price tag on that because you give out way too much free information and you don't get any money for it. But I just like doing it. I love improvement. I love seeing everybody rise. Like what did it say? The best thing you can do is, when you help one person and you help the people, you have all ships rise. I can't remember the exact quote right now, but that's what I like to do. And that's what I've done before. I spoke to people in Ecuador. I spoke to people in Colombia, within the Caribbean, where my family's from. Also in Africa and in places like Korea and stuff. And I had the opportunity of doing that at CES because that's where everybody's represented. So I get a chance to talk to everybody and we cross collaborate. We exchange information and, we built like a group chat right now where we actually have discussions with each other and problem solve within our little community. Of course, everybody needs to make money and whatnot too, but it's nice to build those incubator environments where you are sharing information versus putting a price tag on it all the time.
Got it. Now that's so awesome. So thank you for
Uh,
sharing with us. And today has been a pleasure. I'm just
uh-huh.
super, super excited to, share everything that we've learned from you. So
Mhm.
thank you so much, Elle. And
Yeah.
yeah, thank you.
Oh yeah, thank you. And also I want to say shout out to my friend Sam Durfee. He actually put me in contact with you and stuff. I'm so sorry. It took a long time coming between like work and then I was moving. I'm so sorry it took so long to get to this point. But yeah, this has been great. This is my first video podcast. I am open to having other discussions about stuff or, to your audience if you have questions or you have some young women and young men that want to be inspired in tech and they just need somebody to encourage them, I'm always open to doing that.
Awesome. Well, thank you.